Hello everyone, this is Logan Grab. For the individual school presentation, I am going to be reviewing McDonough County High School, the school that I teach at, and how it is showing promise in becoming a high reliability school. To start, McDonough County High School is located in Anderson, Missouri, and the central office for our school district is also located in Anderson due to this high school being the only high school in McDonald County. It serves really as the hub for our community and our school district. The hometowns within the county each have their own pre-Ks, elementaries, and junior highs, but once students reach ninth grade, they all attend the high school in Anderson. Currently, we have approximately 1,100 students, and that includes our students who are on site and those who are virtual. 61.2% of those students qualify for free or reduced lunch. We have 71 teachers, and whenever you're looking at all of our students to teacher ratio, you're looking at about a 16-to-1 student to teacher ratio. Although I will say it, whenever you kind of hone in on certain classes within the school, that number does fluctuate a little bit because that certainly is a much lower number than my student to teacher ratio, which is honestly in the high 20s typically. I have multiple classes this semester with 27 to 29 students, and that obviously presents some distancing issues, but those are numbers we've normally had in the past. But if you look collectively at our school, we do have a lot of classes that are in this ratio range. At the high school, we have, or really at the high school level, I should say, we have 4 building administrators. Now, the main campus for McDonough County High School, that is where we have our head principal and then 2 assistants who I will introduce in just a little bit. And then at our alternative high school, which has kind of been rebranded over the last few years to the Mussing Academy, we do have an administrator at that building. And they do work with our administrators at the high school, but a lot of what they are doing is online learning. They are part of the virtual learning that's going on in the district. And then, of course, they have modified schedules for the students that attend the academy. Our current administration at McDonough County High School is Angie Brewer, our head principal. Then we have LaDonna McLean. She is our assistant principal. And then Sean Mays, also one of our assistant principals. The interesting thing about this school year is that all 3 of our administrators are new to our school in their roles. One of them, Mrs. Brewer, she was at the district level. She was our curriculum and instruction superintendent, and then transitioned out of that role back into a principal role. And then Mrs. McLean, she was a principal at one of our junior highs and elementaries in the district. And then Mr. Mays came to us from the Webb City School District in Webb City, Missouri. They all work together incredibly well, even with, there being so many different unique challenges this school year. And I think it's a little nerve-wracking for teachers and just people in general to have a whole new set of administrators going into a school year, but I couldn't brag on them enough. They're absolutely wonderful, and each one of them has kind of their own niche and what they thrive in, and it just they're puzzle pieces that fit together really well. So super thankful to have them. I ended up only interviewing our head principal, Angie Brewer, in regard to leadership strategies and what we're looking at. And part of that is just because our principals are spread pretty thin right now and they've been pretty busy. So let's take a look at some of the things that came out of that. So before we head straight into those leadership strategies and effective systems at the high school, just to kind of refresh ourselves on those high reliability schools model levels, levels 1 through 5, and we visited these several times, so I'm not going to read through each one of them. I think we're all pretty familiar with them at this point, and I have to say, from starting this course to this point, I feel so much more comfortable with just the language and everything that's within these, which does help me feel more confident as we move forward with our coursework. Now, the leadership strategies that Mrs. Brewer uses to implement effective educational systems, and these are not all of them, but this is really just what I got out of what she was able to discuss with me, and then honestly just from some of my observations and being someone who is a follower of hers. We have leaders and then followers, and while I'm a leader in my own capacity, she is a leader for me and for our school. And I was very much reminded of some of the things that we talked about in Northhouse in one of our previous courses with transformational leadership. And the quote that I have here, as the name implies, transformational leadership is a process that changes and transforms people. And this could not fit Mrs. Brewer any better. Her enthusiasm for what she does is absolutely infectious. She has such a passion for what she does and is able to walk into situations kind of like ours at the beginning of the school year, not only with COVID complications, but we had a lot of administrative turnover. And of course, I said we had 3 new administrators, but I think that we're finally to a place where we're going to get to have the same team for a while, which is good. And she kind of walked into a little bit of a broken situation and has been able to make changes and help people in ways that we haven't had in at least a couple of years. So this is something that she, I think, is very intentional about. And then also she has a clear vision and plan for the school. And that is something that I think is going to take more time to fully develop and achieve, but she's certainly on the path to doing that. The creation of a collaborative environment is something that she really values, and the fostering of communication among all stakeholders. And if I'm going to talk specifically about teachers, and because we had gone from having an administrator who was highly communicative with us, had a different style than Mrs. Brewer, but we felt like we knew what was going on. We felt like our opinions were valued and that we were represented and that we were a team. And then whenever we had an administrative change a couple years ago, we essentially went to a almost zero communication, and it was almost like my relationship with that particular principal wasn't bad. I've not, in the years that I've been teaching, not had a bad relationship with an administrator, but I felt like my relationship with that person was more non-existent than anything else. And my dad worked for Walmart for decades, and whenever he first started working for Walmart, he had the good fortune of meeting Sam Walton, and I've learned a lot from my dad through over the years, and just from a lot of his leadership strategies as well. And a lot of the things that Mrs. Brewer does reminds me of things that he does, and some of the things that I associate with Sam Walton. So her approach is very similar to that. And he had people in the company and that he formed very strong partnerships with. And that is something that Mrs. Brewer does with teachers, with students. And that truly is, and I'm parents as well. She does such a great job of that. And that is something that whenever you can get everybody on board like that, some pretty incredible things can happen. So I'll be honest, I'm just absolutely ecstatic about what the future of our school holds. We have her consistently seeking feedback in a variety of ways and making data-driven decisions. She is always very, whenever she asks for feedback, if she's looking, to make a decision based on that quick data, then she, if it's not clear to her what the answer or what the right thing to do is in that moment, she'll say, you know what, let me think about it, let me sleep on it, I'll come back to you. But the one thing that I can guarantee you that she does is she does give you an answer, even if it's maybe not the one that you want, and that's something that I truly appreciate about her. And on top of that, she leads by example with a problem solving approach. The dissertation by Thomas I reference, and whenever you know that you're going to have problems at some point in an organization, and whenever you can be proactive and be able to respond to problems or pitfalls in a way that still allows the organization to be successful, then that it is something that you want to strive for. And I think that that's something that she uses very well as a strategy. Now, effective educational systems at McDonald County High School, you do have some relation between these and the program systems that our district has as a whole. These are more specific to the high school, and then there are some different ones on here. So we've got our teacher mentor program, first and second year teachers. We do have our building level literacy teams, a gifted program. We have a response to intervention program, our professional development committee, weekly memo, department chair committee, and then monthly planning meetings. Now, our teacher mentor program, that is specifically for first and second year teachers, and across the board at the district and here at the high school, it is a incredibly solid program. I am a product of it, and I couldn't say anything negative about it at all, actually. Our building level literacy teams, we have people from each department that end up having, kind of our mini teams that end up forming our whole school team to help build literacy into the curriculum of our entire school. We have our gifted program. That is something that students are typically in before they come to the high school, but there are a lot of opportunities that our students have because of this program, and it's just ran really well. Our response to intervention program, that's something I'm a part of that, and I've been in the mentor program. I'm part of the literacy team. I'm now a teacher in the gifted program, and I'm one of the leads for the RTI team. So that is something that we've had a lot of work to do this year. It seems like more so than any other year, just because we've got a lot of different situations with why kids may or may not be in school, what they're dealing with. And then, once we have them here, what are the interventions that we need to put in place to best meet their needs? And that's comprised of a group of teachers, counselors, and administrators in our school. And it's one of the best groups that I've been a part of. Our professional development committee, they do a great job of helping make sure we have learning opportunities, whether they are at our building, and a lot of things are virtual now, just with not being able to meet in person. So that is something that they are having to deal with this year, but hopefully things are able to go back to somewhat of a normalcy soon. One of the things that Mrs. Brewer started this year was the weekly memo that typically goes out sometime over the weekend, Saturday or Sunday. And it just gives everybody an idea of what we've got headed out in the week ahead, and allows her to let us, give feedback on anything or ask questions before we get into the week. And I appreciate that. There were times with a previous administrator where sometimes we got it on Mondays, or it wasn't a weekly memo, but whatever communication they had for us wasn't until after maybe our day had usually started on Monday. And so it's just really nice to feel like you're going into your week prepared. And I know our whole school feels that way. Then we have our department chair committee, and that's something we've had for a long time, but Mrs. Brewer has really stepped up the communication with the department chairs and truly allows them to lead. It hasn't always been that way, and I think that allows for a level of empowerment for those individuals and for those departments to feel like they are part of the process and not just being told what to do. And then another addition that Mrs. Brewer has made this year is monthly planning meetings. So on the third Wednesday of every month during your prep, you meet with her. Sometimes other administrators are there, and everyone that has that common prep is able to come in. It's nice to have some cross-curricular conversation, look at what we've got going on in our school in regard to data, and some of the things that we may have coming up that we need to have on our horizons with our students. So some of these things have been around for a while, like I said. Some of these are new additions, and hands down, everything that Mrs. Brewer has implemented has been highly, highly effective, and is something I hope we continue doing. Now, we are going to get into looking at the leading indicators and the indicators needing improvement at McDonald County High School. Very similar to the way that I approach the school district aspect of this. And you do see some similarities, which completely makes sense to me. But then there are definitely some discrepancies from the feedback I got from central office administration on the last project that we did. So I'm not going to read through each one of these, but every single indicator for level 1, safe, supportive, and collaborative culture, Mrs. Brewer identified as a leading indicator, which I agree with the feedback that she gave. And the one indicator that she indicated needed improvement was 1.4, and that's teacher teams and collaborative groups regularly interacting to address common issues regarding curriculum, assessment, instruction, and the achievement of all students. And I understand why she put that on here, and it's not because we're not doing it. It's just we would like to see more of it. People are pulled in a lot of different directions that were not normally pulled this year, just with how our days are structured due to social distancing and not being able to do certain things. So I think that this is something that we'll be able to get back to a level that we feel is adequate and effective. But I do think this is something, just with the complications of the school year, that has suffered for sure. So moving on to level 2, our effective teaching in every classroom. We've got 2.2, 2.3, and 2.4 identified by her as leading indicators. And I would agree with all of these. And we definitely are getting a unique perspective when we're looking at this, because Mrs. Brewer is an individual who has worked in our elementary schools as a teacher, principal, has been at the district level as an administrator, as our curriculum superintendent, and then now has been at the high school as an administrator. And so I feel like she really has seen a lot of what our district has to offer. And so whenever she comes up here to the high school, she just brings a lot of knowledge about what effective teaching looks like in every classroom. Some of the areas that she felt could have improvement. She had 2.1, the school leader communicating clear vision on how instruction should be addressed. And she has absolutely done this. I would say she has very high expectations for herself and is very hard on herself. And so I think that that's just something that, she's doing. She just wants to do more of, and maybe reach even more people than she already is. Because she most certainly does communicate that. 2.5 and 2.6, opportunities for teachers to observe. That is something that we used to do, but due to our schedule this year and just other things COVID related, like I mentioned before, that hasn't happened as much. And by schedule, I mean that we went from a block schedule to a 7-hour schedule. So we have half the amount of prep time that we used to have. So that doesn't allow us to do that as often. And teacher coverage, if it's at a time where it's not during your prep, finding extra people to watch classes or subs right now is nearly impossible. So that's definitely one of the reasons that's suffering. And then job embedded PD we have, but it's been a little bit harder to come by this year. For our leading indicators on level 3, and that's what we've really been focusing on this week, a guaranteed and viable curriculum. You've got 3.1, 2, 3, and 4 that she identified as leading indicators. And that was relatively consistent with what I saw people reporting at the district level. So it makes sense to have this at our school level as well. And then the indicators needing improvement. We've got 3.5, so the school analyzing and interpreting and using data, monitoring those school achievement goals. And I feel like that really ties back to the indicators that she stated needed improvement on level 1 and 2, so this streamlines very well. And then 3.6, the school establishing appropriate school and classroom level programs and practices to help students meet individual achievement goals. So interventions are part of this, indicating when those are needed. And I think that both of these things are things that we have sprinklings of in here, but we just don't have that full realization of them at this moment. Our leading indicator for level 4, you've got 4.1, and that's the school establishing clear and measurable goals, and that focuses on the achievement of individual students. And I think that if you were to do a survey throughout our school, that would be something that most people would say is a leading indicator. And then the indicator needing improvement is 4.2, and that is the school analyzing, interpreting, and using data once again. So definitely have a connection there back with level 1, 2, and 3 indicators needing improvement. And then on to level 5, competency-based education. So we've got 5.1, and we have students moving on to the next level of the curriculum for any subject area only after they had demonstrated competence at the previous level. And I would say that I agree with this to an extent. I think it's based on perception of what demonstrating competence is. People may define that differently. So I think in order to really determine this, the school itself and the district itself has to identify what does competency-based mean for them. So, we have a traditional grading scale, but then if you look at some of our other schools in the district, we have standards-based grading up until they get to middle school. So that is definitely something that I am going to have to think about a little bit more. And then we have indicators needing improvement for level 5. We have 5.2 that deals with the school schedule accommodating students and moving at their appropriate pace and meeting the needs of whatever their situation may be. And then 5.3, the school affording students who have demonstrated competency levels above what the system in place has, giving them immediate opportunities to begin work on advanced content or even pursuing career paths. So that is definitely something that is of a high caliber of education. And I think we could get there, but there is a lot of work that has to be done before we reach that. Now, after looking at all of those different pieces, when asked at what level do you feel McDonough County High School is currently operating at, Mrs. Brewer said that she felt confident that we're operating at a level 3. And that is what 2 of the central office district level administrators had said before. One said level 2, and I think they went with level 2 because we hadn't fully realized 3. Mrs. Brewer is definitely approaching this from where I think I have most of the time in this course, and that we have 1 and 2 down, even if there's some things that we can still improve. But on 3, we've got a lot of those things going on, and she mentioned she kind of struggled with her selection, and that she almost graded us higher because she feels like we're getting really close to, kind of buttoning down a lot of those level 3 items. But in regard to 3.5, and I think I mentioned this earlier, we are doing that, and we're definitely headed in the right direction. So, if we can continue doing the things that we're doing at 1 and 2, kind of polish up those things that are not fully happening right now. And I think this is just a different school year for everybody. So things are only going to continue to improve, I hope. And if we can fully develop those indicators throughout level 3, then we can really start setting our sights on level 4 and 5 as we move forward as a school. So thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope that it was, able to give a little bit of information that you find useful, and I am looking forward to seeing everybody else's. So here are my references, and I will talk to you all soon. Goodbye.